Welcome back to another episode of Living the Standard, the podcast for those who refuse to settle for average. I'm your host, Brandon Hogan. Each episode, we talk about raising your standard in the gym, in business, and in life. What's going on, everybody? Hope you all had a good Thanksgiving, and for those of you who are in my area, hope you're enjoying the snow. We definitely got a lot of it these past few days. But anyways, today I want to dive into a little bit more on how I actually started bar raising fitness, kind of go into a little bit more detail and how I dove all in, even though I wasn't the most perfect conditions. But I was able to start with what I had and grow from there. So back in 2018, my buddy John and I had just moved into a small 2-bedroom house in East Dubuque, right across the Iowa and Illinois bridge. We'd been looking for a house for a little while now, and when we came across this place, I thought it was perfect. For one, it had a small 1-car garage that I could start bar raising fitness out of, and for two, it was cheap, very cheap. So anyways, we moved into this place like in August of 2018, I believe. And this is when I started planning the business. Mind you, I had no clue what I was doing. I had never worked in a gym, never learned anything about business or training in school. The only work experience I had were a couple random jobs. I had worked for my dad's landscaping and lawn care company, helping with landscaping projects. Like we'd build these massive but beautiful patios, retaining walls, decorative curbing, bonfire pits. And it was always pretty cool seeing the finished product when we were done with it. But outside of landscaping, I helped mow lawns, trim bushes, and move snow in the winters. The other jobs I had were for a very short period of time. Like I worked at Shopco in Dyersville a little my freshman year, maybe a couple months there. Then in college, I was a delivery driver for Pizza Hut. That sucked. I did that for a couple months. Then after I dropped out of college, I went back to helping my dad for a little bit. Then over that winter, I worked at Sundown Mountain as a park crew member. So basically, I snowboarded all day. Then after that, I worked as a maintenance guy for a large storage and rental unit company out of Dubuque. I would clean out storage units, fix up random things, do small repairs and renovations in their apartment complexes and duplexes, which actually wasn't a bad gig for me at the time. I was getting paid like $16 an hour. They helped a little with my health insurance, which I needed. And for the most part, I was by myself all day just working on little projects. And by the time we moved into that house, I'd been working at this job for roughly 5 or 6 months. And kind of funny side note, from the time I moved into this house to the point I gave my 2 weeks notice for this job, every day during work, I would just turn on a playlist of motivational speeches and just listen to that all day, just getting myself hyped up. At least in my mind, it felt like I was, because it was working, because mentally I was getting ready to go. But anyways, when we moved into this house, I started getting ready to launch bar raising fitness. The first thing I jumped on was getting a gym into the garage. The walls at the time weren't completely done, so my dad and I got some cheap materials to finish up the walls and cover up the wires and outlets. Then I hopped on Facebook to find some old equipment I could buy. I was able to get an old bench press, some iron plates, a barbell, 2 barbells actually, a squat stand. I found a very cheap chest fly machine that also had a lat pull down machine on it, which maybe went up to like 20 pounds of resistance. I found a pull-up tower so I could do some pull-ups. And then I found the cheapest stationary bike off Amazon, a heavy bag, 1 set of 10-pound dumbbells. I also found some stall mats from Farm Tech that they were looking to get rid of, so I snagged those up for the flooring. Then to cap it off, I hung up an American flag and a Muhammad Ali poster by the heavy bag. Oh, and I almost forgot, I had a treadmill that a relative gave me for free. good thing I tested that out first, because right when I started picking up speed, the belt stuck and I went down. So needless to say, the treadmill stayed out of order, but I kept it in there because it looked like a nice touch to the setup and everything. And if you want to see a photo of the actual gym that was in the garage, I'll attach a link to the description of this post. It will bring you to one of our blogs that has some photos of bar raising history on it. But yeah, it wasn't much, but to me it was perfect. Even though it had no AC, which that August heat was brutal when we were in there. Me, my roommate, and a couple buddies would work out, and it was hot. Then in the winters, we had no heat. So I went to Walmart and bought the cheapest space heater they had, which looked like an old wall furnace. So in between sets, we would go warm up our hands by the heater because it only kicked out heat for like a foot radius. Even though it was nothing near special and never had ideal temp conditions in there, it was everything I needed to get started. The next things I worked on after getting the gym set up was creating some branding. So I had the name already, Bar Raising Fitness. Next, I needed to design a logo, which at the time I used some weird Photoshop app that was free on my laptop to design the logo. And funny thing is, I still have my first banner that I hung up in my garage. It's currently in my current garage of the place I'm living. But anyways, this banner has our first logo on it. And if you look closely at one of the sprinters on the left, he only has 4 fingers. So needless to say, it was not a great logo. That banner also had our first slogan on it, which I went with, "Get out of your comfort zone," which at the time I currently was doing. I was getting out of my own comfort zone by starting up something I had never done before. So it was a very fitting slogan for the time. But yeah, after I designed a logo, I made a Facebook and Instagram page, created a website, I designed some business cards, I made a couple of t-shirts I could wear around. I had to next create some service options and pricing, which I was charging something like $5 to $7 an hour is what some of these session packages came out to. And then on top of the creating and planning, I started reading a handful of books about training, dove into some fitness podcasts just to start learning a little bit more about the craft of coaching and training. So I worked on this for about a month or a month and a half or so after we moved in, before I finally gave my 2 weeks notice to the job I was currently working at, and officially launched Bar Raising Fitness on October 1st of 2018, which, looking back on it now, I can see how some people would say this isn't the smartest or best strategy to do. But once I had the gym set up in my garage, a company name, logo, website, business card, and social media pages, I was ready to dive all in, which is exactly what I did. So some of you also may ask, how could I afford to do this? And the answer is, I couldn't. I had just spent all my savings to buy the equipment, pay for the website, marketing materials, and some other business expenses, which even then I only saved up a couple $1,000s and used it all on that. So me quitting my full-time job now I had no money coming in. So I had to think of a way to get by, to pay for rent, food, and other expenses just to live. For one, to do this, I saved as much as I could by not buying unnecessary things, which I basically lived off of eggs, chicken, rice, frozen veggies, and water for years. Like, I remember when me and my fiance first met, there was one time she got me some chocolate milk, and I was drinking that thing so slowly, and she asked me why I was drinking it so slow. And I told her how chocolate milk was always like a treat of mine. I would reward myself if I made a little extra money that month where I could justify to myself to buy some chocolate milk. So it always tasted like heaven to me any chance I got to drink it. So, which is, it's a pretty funny memory for me to look back on and kind of think about. But yeah, the first thing I did was cut all unnecessary expenses. Then the next thing I did was sell everything valuable I owned. And I mean everything, which I actually had a decent amount of things because I was not the smartest growing up and bought quite a bit of things. So I sold my four-wheeler, my PlayStation 4 and all the games. Sold my watch collection of like 12 different watches. All my Air Jordans and other shoes. Sold my snowboard, my TV. I sold basically everything I absolutely didn't need and could make $1 on. Shoot, I even sold some items like some decor clothing for like a couple bucks. But at that time, every cent mattered. And that $1 could go toward chipping away at my rent or getting me a tad bit of gas. On top of that, I also would flip things off of Facebook, find some cheap items and sell them for a little bit more. Like I said, every dollar mattered. To bring in a little extra, I signed up to be an Uber driver. So every now and then when I would want to stop working on Bar Raising Fitness for a little bit, mainly the late nights from like midnight to 3 a.m. when the bars closed, I would go out and drive Uber. So that helped bring in some money on the side as well. And doing these three things helped me get by for the time being, along with a couple credit cards. But the thing is, it's weird, but I was not worried. Because the honest truth was, I was super confident in myself to make it work. Being broke, selling basically everything I owned, didn't really affect me whatsoever. I knew this is just something I had to get through and that it wasn't going to be like this forever. As long as I get to work and bust my ass to make something happen. Which the very moment I no longer had a job and could give my entire self to Bar Raising Fitness was the moment I really got after it. I did not stop. Early mornings, extremely late nights, I was building, marketing, learning, and creating. I'd do anything I could to spread the word. I went around town putting my business card on car windshields. I messaged anyone and everyone, created posts for social media, and just blasted the name Bar Raising Fitness out as much as I could. Thankfully, I was actually able to get a couple people who were willing to train with me in my garage. A couple buddies of mine, a couple people I knew. I trained my little brother who was currently playing high school football at the time. And I even managed to get one or two random people I didn't know, which I'm guessing they liked how cheap I was and thought, what the hell, why not? But hey, I'd take anyone I could get. And I was in it for the long haul. But the world's an interesting place, and I do believe everything happens for a reason. Because thankfully, a short time after starting up in my garage, I received an opportunity to expand my services to another small space about 30 minutes from me out in Farley, Iowa, which I'll put a bookmark in the rest of this story and save it for next time. Right now, I want to wrap up today's episode and want to highlight an important message I hope you all can take from today's story about starting before you're ready. This is always easier said than done. But there are so many people who never start something because they're waiting for that perfect time, or they think they need more knowledge or more money. Many never start because they're afraid to fail, or have the fear of what other people are going to say or think about them. The reality is, there is no perfect timing. The perfect time is right now. Even starting messy is better than not starting at all. And truthfully, you gain more confidence by doing and not waiting. So I just want to ask you this. What's one thing you've been telling yourself you'll start doing, quote, someday? Do you want to start your own business? Do you want to become healthier? Do you want to improve a relationship? Do you want to learn a new skill? Whatever it is, think of it, then ask yourself, what's one step you can take today? Because I encourage you all to take action immediately. Start that something today. Because if you're like me, I did not have much of the perfect situation. I just decided to start, and that changed everything. I started before I was ready, and here we are today. So go and start before you're ready, because you might not get another chance. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed it, please rate 5 stars, subscribe, and share with a friend. Until next time, keep raising your standards.